Not since Psycho, Clockwork Orange, and Death Wish has there been a motion picture that will force you to sit through such stark brutality and moral abuse. You will be fascinated and spellbound by the bizarre terror of a man without a heart, without a soul, without a conscience. The Death Dealer.
This is the Blood and Blood podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. I'm Ryan from blaxploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
Let's go.
Doing all right. Been trying to get this podcast off the ground for an hour now, but doing all right. We are
Try like an hour and a half.
I know.
Or 90 minutes of futzing about.
We're coming at you with an episode that we had been talking about. We were going to do a Poliziotteschi movie, and we are indeed going to bring you a Poliziotteschi movie. We're talking about an Umberto Lenzi movie as well. Now, I don't know, you're not very well versed in Poliziotteschi. Yeah, I think this is your first one that you've seen, right?
Yes.
And I'm not super. I have seen a few, but I'm not like super well versed in it. I've really only dipped my toes in, and but ultimately I'm interested in the movies. It's just that for whatever reason I focused more on giallo and spaghetti western than I have Poliziotteschi. So I don't know why, but it is what it is, and now I'm trying to rectify that by catching up on Poliziotteschi movies. With that said, we should probably explain what that means for those people who don't really know. Poliziotteschi is basically just an Italian crime drama. It's it's a crime caper. Sometimes it's you're focused on a criminal. Sometimes it's focused on inspectors or detectives or whatever. But it's less about murder, right? So like giallo is more about inspectors and murder and detective work and stuff like that. Poliziotteschi is more about like crime stuff where the criminal is engaged in like illegal activity, but generally not a lot of like serial killer murders. It's more like kidnappings or robberies or, crime sprees, things like that. So that's where Poliziotteschi comes in, because the police are on the case trying to catch the criminal.
I thought it was German for whale's vagina.
Yeah, I know. When you say that, it makes you think like, Gesundheit.
Wait, no. That's San Diego. San Diego. That's German for whale's vagina. One day we will do Anchorman.
Yeah, at some point we will.
It'd be almost a sin not to ever do Anchorman, Legend of Ron Burgundy on this podcast, seeing as we are filthy millennials.
Agreed. So the Poliziotteschi we're talking about today is actually, it comes because we picked this one because Severin Films just released this in a nice box set. And the box set is kind of long-winded, but it's called Violent Streets, the Umberto Lenzi / Tomas Milian collection. And so it's basically collecting films that were directed by Umberto Lenzi and starred Tomas Milian. And this film happens to be one of those. Now, if you don't know Umberto Lenzi, he is probably more known for his horror work than he was for his Poliziotteschi, but he dabbled in both. So, he did a lot of giallo films, horror movies, Poliziotteschi's, even some 007 James Bond ripoffs. Yeah, he did this one called 008 Operation Exterminate. from 1965. I love it. I love it.
He's
Or the spy who loved flowers as well.
Well,
Another
and
good one.
that from what you're popping up on your IMDb right now, that's a lot earlier than The Spy Who Loved Me. So
Yeah.
but he's also the man who wrote Gloria.
Gloria.
Yeah, you know the song Gloria.
Oh,
wait, no.
okay.
No, that's Umberto Tozzi. Never mind. My bad.
No, but Umberto Lenzi is really well known for his work on the cannibal films of the early 1980s. He did Cannibal Pharaoh. He did Eaten Alive. All hitting at the same time, around the same time as Cannibal Holocaust, and that's probably his
From
his most
Corleone to
but-
Brooklyn.
Yeah, but you know what? He's also known for his Italian crime dramas, and that's what we're covering him for on here. And the one that we're covering today is called Almost Human, although it's also known by a number of names, including the Exterminator, the Death Dealers, and my personal favorite of them is the actual Italian title, which is Milan Hates. The cops, what is it? The cops can't shoot.
The police can't.
The police can't shoot. Yeah, that's my favorite one because it is such a ridiculous title.
We watched it under the name The Executioner. Which
I said Exterminator. I meant Executioner. I'm sorry. There's a different film called The Exterminator.
You can tell when they rebranded it as The Death Dealer, they were riding the coattails of Death Wish on that one. Like, you know, Bronson's giving these punks a death wish. Here, it's like he's the Death Dealer.
I mean, I love sometimes the ridiculous nature of Italian film names, and this one's no different. Of course, for different markets, they name this all kinds of different things. Almost Human for me is probably my least favorite of the titles that it goes by, because
But it's the most metaphorical.
It sure is. It is. Almost Human now, though, has come to remind me, there's a lot of like science fiction type movies that are like known by Almost Human, and that's kind of what it reminds me of. But you're right. This movie does have thematic metaphors about humanity and the protagonist's morals and things like that really does make sense in the scheme of the movie. But it is my least favorite title for this movie. But you might, like you said, you might know it by different titles. So it's one of those Italian movies that you just has various different names that you might recognize.
That's like my favorite part, though, about like a lot of Italian films, is the names are always these like abstract but overly literal names.
Yep.
Like, you know, like what's Dawn of the Dead gonna be called in Italy? Zombie.
Yeah, I mean, it's what they did. They gave them all different kinds of names, and they didn't really go. It was mostly to do mass marketing, right? So there was a very smart maneuver from them to go and try to figure out what would be the best title to market in this specific part of the world, because this got a really large release, got a worldwide release, it got various releases in other countries. So, they were marketing to every possible iteration that they could think of. So this movie does star Tomas Milian as the he's a protagonist, but really you can call him an anti-hero. He's not even really a hero, honestly. He's mostly the antagonist of the movie, but we follow him. He's like our viewpoint into Almost Human. And Tomas Milian, as I said, worked with Umberto Lenzi quite a bit on Poliziotteschi. And he really fits the part of a anti-hero figure. You know, he's got that brooding sensibility to him. He's got very distinctive facial expressions that you'd actually notice quite a bit from Italian actors. Those are kinds of, like thinking about spaghetti westerns too. He does have very specific like facial features that spaghetti westerns often employ, especially like the roustabouts that are around saloons and stuff like that. He has that same kind of facial expression at times.
I think I think it's mainly a lot of that has to do with the fact that Italian films are, they're made and then they dub them over later because they usually have a cavalcade of, and do the sound later because they have a cavalcade of different European and English-speaking people. And here, though, it's almost like, why the hell wouldn't you just record the audio to begin with? Everyone's a fucking Italian in this, like, except for, like, 2 people.
Yeah, Henry Silva's not, and a couple other people are not. But for the most part, yeah, they're pretty much all Italian. But yeah, you're right. Even, did you watch the English dub?
Yeah, I did. It's
yes. I know, but then did you even turn on the Italian dub at all?
No, but okay, I don't want to spoil it because I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm already like, sunk into this dubbing.
I turned on the Italian dub for a little bit, and I didn't really think it was that much better because, again, they did do a lot of overdubbing on pretty much everybody, and so it really, again, it still is like not satisfying. But I would say that in the English dub, the really, really poor dubbing comes from Giulio himself, because I think the guy that they got to play Giulio is just not suited for this type of performance. He really does not, I don't know, he's not very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very,
he's like an incredibly overacting, dinner theater version of Al Pacino.
Yeah. I guess just like it's difficult to see him in this role, like with that voice. But I thought the dubbing was pretty terrible. But then when I switched to the Italian, I was like, it's not that much better. So I guess I'll go back to the English. So let's take a break real quick before we get into the film anymore, and let's talk about the beer that we got on the show today, because we do have a new one here, and it's one I've been looking for quite some time. I knew it was coming out, but I didn't know when it would be in our area, and it surely now is. So what'd you grab for us today, Martin?
I grabbed us Sierra Nevada, because you've been asking for 7 times over. They got a new Torpedo out. They got a cold hop Torpedo out. And I said, great. Cold hop beer, just what I don't give a shit about.
And that was actually my mistake on that one. I was thinking it was a cold IPA, and that they do have that. They do have a cold IPA Torpedo, but this is not technically that. I was mistaken in my assumptions about the Sierra Nevada anyway.
But yeah, they have a new pack out. It's like their new hop pack, and it comes with the pale ale, which I can't wait to drink some of those because it's going to be so delightful. The Torpedo.
Yeah, they give you the regular pale ale. They give you what, like a regular Torpedo?
Regular Torpedo, a Dankful IPA, which is good. It would be great if it was the Ruthless Rye instead, but it's neither here nor there. But also, the one main thing that you're trying to get out of this pack is the new one that's in there, and it's their Cryo Fresh Torpedo, which is a wet hops cryo freeze IPA. And it is really delightful.
I was very pleasantly surprised by this. I think this is probably one of the most exciting beers that I've had from Sierra Nevada, and a new beer, I should say. You know, I was actually very excited about the Celebration IPA that they had. They normally have for like Thanksgiving and Christmas time, because that's a really solid IPA. I love that one.
It's a very as we have both said before, we've done it and talked about it, because we talk about it like every winter season. It's a delightfully underrated, delightful offering that they give us during the winter season.
Yeah, and having that actually gave me some more appreciation for Sierra Nevada, because it's been a little while since I've had anything from them that I thought was anything to write home about. So I kind of got more into it, and I saw they were bringing out this new pack, and I thought that was pretty exciting. And now to have it, I think they did a really good job with this one. So all the buzzwords are on here: cryo, wet hop, shit like that. Honestly, if you're not a brewer, do you really care that much about it? Probably not. You don't like for the process that they're going through. It's like great, I'm sure the brewers really came up with a process and blah blah blah, and sure the recipe is fascinating and stuff like that. But I don't really care about that. I don't think most normal beer drinkers do either. And to be honest with you, the catchphrases that are being used now, and I'll use your term, bandied about, I don't really care about it anymore. As you said with the cold IPAs, it's all fucking marketing. It's all just throw that on the label. The people will flock to it because it sounds cool. So I don't really care about the cryo-ness of it so much. But what I do think is they're using a new varietal of hop, a new one from Yakima, which if you've followed like Sloop, I think we've done a beer from Sloop where they've used some experimental Yakima hops. And the same is true of what Sierra Nevada is doing. They're using an experimental varietal that was pretty much, I think, grown specifically for this Torpedo. And whatever it is, whatever hop varietal it is, it's really fucking good. The label says that they were able to isolate this specific hop to get pure lupulin from it. Again, all just buzzwords. But at the end of the day, this is a really solid IPA from them. I think it actually blows the regular Torpedo out of the water. Pun intended. I just have to laugh at that. But I think this one is better than the original Torpedo. And I would really come back to this. I'm actually disappointed that I only have one. I'll probably have to pick up this pack for myself because I do think that this Cryo Fresh Torpedo is an excellent new beer from them. Your turn.
Yeah, I like it. As I'm taking a sip of my newly fresh cracked one, because audio shenanigans earlier making us delay this episode. It's really good. It's not really torpedo-y, except I would say, if anything, that Sierra Nevada's Torpedo is known for is the fact that it's West Coast IPA on steroids. Very piney, very citrusy, very hoppy, very bitter. A delightful, double West Coast bog standard IPA. That's, I still think like their pale ale has stood the test of time. And maybe that's a little bit of nostalgia just because it's not a hazy. This, though, is like a nice balance of a West Coast IPA with a slight twist on it. I think the fact that it has excuse me. Well, there's another one. That it has that wet hop aspect to it. It's definitely a go between a regular West Coast IPA and a double. But I think that the hops, the process that they use to make this adds a slight juiciness to it that isn't like a hazy or New England IPA exactly, but it does add when you're drinking it, you're not thinking like, oh, this is pure bitter, piney, West Coast style. It has like a roundness to it, another complexion to the taste. It's more nuanced. The juiciness is more just the fact that like the taste itself, the body is it's different and more like a hazy. I like it a lot. It's for 7%, beer. It's incredibly crushable, drinkable, enjoyable. Yet you're still getting that West Coast classic style IPA with the hops, the bitterness, the pininess, the citrusness. I like this a lot. This is very good. And Fidens take note because this is what a West Coast IPA tastes like.
Yeah, no, that is true though. That is true. You're right about that.
And I'd say that's one of the many reasons why I love Sierra Nevada, because it's like, again, whether you like what they do now or not, you could always go back to the Torpedo and Pale Ale and be like, yep, they haven't changed those at all. So it's just like, yep, those are fucking the good times right there.
No, I agree. I mean, the Pale Ale is amazing. It's always been amazing. So
I know, that's why, like I said, I can't wait to crack into those. Like, oh, hello, old friend. It's nice to see you again.
definitely. All right, so let's move on to Almost Human, or The Executioner, or Milan Hates, which is my favorite. Let's talk about that a little bit. So this movie is an interesting movie. I think that it has a really kind of unique take on a Poliziotteschi, where we see the criminal element first and foremost. We're at the forefront of the criminal element because we are following the criminal. We're following Giulio as he's kind of a two-bit criminal. He really doesn't have a gang behind him. We see him initially get in trouble with his gang because he's involved in a robbery that kind of goes awry when he accidentally, I mean, not accidentally, he does it on purpose, but when he has to kill a police officer on duty, and a watchman.
He's a watchman.
And it ultimately, his gang overlord, Mahoney, is like, what the fuck did you do that for? What did you really need to murder that guy? And Giulio's like, sure I did. And he's like, you could have fucking said I left my wallet at home, you asshole. Draw the heat on us from this. So like Giulio doesn't really have a gang behind him. He kind of has Mahoney, but at the same time, it's not like he's truly involved with him, not like it's his mob boss or anything like that. So we're following Giulio, and he's basically going through this this plan of how he's going to make more money. And it's pretty funny because like we're following him as the antagonist, and even his girlfriend is like, you could always just like get a job or something, right? Like you could just go do something. And he's like, what? Get a job? I don't think so. So what does he do? He settles for a kidnapping scheme because he knows that his girlfriend's boss has this, he's very rich. And they talk in lira. So he's like a billionaire in lira. And he decides that he's going to kidnap this guy's daughter. And that's pretty much the plan in Almost Human. Like, that's what we get the setup for. And most of the movie is situated around Giulio trying to get this set in motion. And I think that's kind of interesting, that we are following him from an antagonist viewpoint of like, this guy's doing these heinous things and we're kind of just following along for the ride to see what happens. So the beginning of this movie starts out really explosive, right? Because we see the robbery happening. We don't see the actual robbery itself, and I guess that's a deleted scene that's included on Severin's Blu-ray. But
I almost feel like it's not even a robbery. Like they're about to rob it, and then he goes off half-cocked and shoots the cops, and he's like, I need help! And they're like, fuck!
Yeah, like they didn't even get anything done. They just like walked in the door. He shoots inside. Like, Jesus Christ, we didn't even put on the masks yet.
It's the vibe I got from that. It's like, like they didn't get to do any of the fun heist of the Grand Theft Auto bank heist. They, so their gunmen, their wheelmen shot the cop, and they're like, fuck, God damn it, now we gotta go out there.
I know. But it has a really great like chase sequence in the beginning part. I think they did a really good job with the chase. Kind of the explosiveness of it to really set this movie in motion. And I think probably the only negative, the downside to that, is that the middle portion of the movie is a little bit too slow compared to the opening moments. I think that it kind of actually winds down instead of winding up for most of the movie. And we're kind of left with a middle that's just a little bit too slow for my tastes. Because it's a lot of setup, right? It's a lot of Giulio trying to find like a team, and really he just recruits a couple guys from the street who are like, yeah, I guess that sounds good, man. We'll kidnap her as long as there's 1 billion lira in it. I guess we'll do that. And they don't even like, the thing about his recruiting is it's kind of funny. It like shows how even though he thinks he's a really smart guy that's going to get away with this kidnapping, like he's really not that good at being a crime boss. The guys that he recruits, first of all, he's not even really sure that he can trust them. They're not really sure that they can trust him. And they're barely even into the plot itself. Like the one guy, what's his name? Not Vittorio, but the other one.
Carmine
is, I think, how they say it in this movie.
It's supposed. God, that bothered me throughout. Instead of
Right, where they say Carmine.
Carmine, not Carmine. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
I know. Yeah, that guy, he's like, kind of baby-faced and new to the world of crime, and he's just kind of like, I don't think I want to do any of this stuff that you're having me do. Eventually, he kind of succumbs to it, but...
He's like, I have a nice mullet. I don't really want to...
Yeah, I don't really want to mess all that up. I've got a good thing going here. I got a good shtick.
Mary Lou's looking at me nice.
Yeah. The Mary Lou is the kidnapped girl in this movie, played by Laura Belli, and she is a star tennis player, according to her. That's where they initially meet her, on the tennis court, and she's like playing tennis in a really, really, really short skirt without like normal, pant leggings on underneath. She's just got like her underwear on. She's like, look how good I can play tennis. And then she proceeds to whiff and foul off every single tennis ball that comes her way. It's pretty hilarious.
It's like a bad porno, like sitting there playing tennis, like, look at me, crappily hitting the ball barely over the net.
The other thing about this too is like these three obviously like criminal looking guys,
threatenous looking human beings,
just standing there on the tennis court. In this tennis court, it looks like it's kind of in the middle of nowhere too. There's like woods behind it. They're out in the middle of nowhere. Just like these three random guys are just staring at them playing tennis. No one says a thing. Not like, why are you here? Why do you keep leering at me?
I say it's the 70s. It's different. Like, oh, yeah.
And the thing I like too about this, at times the writing really does not make a lot of sense, and there are a lot of plot holes in this movie. But one that I think is interesting is Giulio really doesn't care that he gets seen at like everywhere. Like at the tennis court, he just basically tells her his name and is openly leering at her, what everyone can see. And later on, he shows up at a crime scene where he's just killed a police officer. He really doesn't care, and that is truly sometimes criminal behavior, to return to the scene of the crime and kind of get embroiled in the criminal case. But at the same time, I think like he's taking so many dumb maneuvers in this movie that it makes sense that he would eventually get caught. The problem is the police are not very good at their jobs in this movie. I mean, we first get the introduction of the Inspector Walter Grandi, who's played by Henry Silva. And he seems like he kind of knows what he's doing. But the rest of the police outfit really seems like it's kind of bumbling. Did you get that feeling?
They're not involved.
It seems like he's
the only one on the case, and
that really cares about what's happening at all.
It's not like he's John Saxon, stuck with a bunch of idiots, because no one else has, been put to the task.
I do,
and because they go the stereotypical route of these films, because what is Poliziotteschi but just American, vigilante films of the 70s, which is why this is so much fun. It's just, you have cops because it's supposed to be portraying this idea of like, crime is rampant, nobody does anything, and the cop's like, what do you want me to do? I can't fucking do anything, except the one lone ranger is like, God damn it, I'm going to go out there. If I got to kill him, I'm going to do it.
That's right.
To bring justice. And
that's Grandi.
And that's why it's kind of funny, because out of all the people in the world you could have as like this lone ranger vigilante, Henry Silva as Walter Grandi is not your fucking the guy you're going to be sitting there thinking of, with his buddies drinking a scotch, like, God damn it, there's one more fucking killing out there. I'm just going to go crazy.
Well, it's kind of funny because Silva actually would often play like kind of like the criminal element himself, but here he's playing a very uptight, he's turtlenecked.
I don't say
inspector guy who's
turtlenecked, bell-bottomed, sideburns for days. Like the 70s and by this point, it ate him up totally. Like, he's like super early 70s. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he has a nice presence. He has a very imposing presence. His facial features, the construction of his face itself, he certainly has like a striking figure. And I think that makes him a really interesting counterpoint to Giulio, because Giulio's kind of like this goofy, fucked up, goofing off guy. And Henry Silva comes in and he's very, very serious. He's taking this case very seriously. He's like, it's almost like they murdered his children here, because he's taking it so seriously.
You know what it's kind of reminds me of? It's a live action like Lupin adaptation.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot more like, I don't know, hard boiled at times.
Well, I mean,
Lupin would be.
Well, so is the manga and the the first series before Miyazaki got on board. Well, I'm just saying because like everyone like you were saying, it was like how like rubbery Tomas Milan as Giulio is, like with his facial affectations, and how everything's really played seriously, and then Henry Silva kind of gives me like that as Inspector Walter Grandi, that early Zenigata kind of like, he's not bumbling, but he's like onto it, and he's pissed off because he knows what's going on, and he's getting pissed off that he's getting the runaround.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of gives me that, which would have been airing at the time too, like first series Lupin the Third vibes, which for me is not a bad thing.
Yeah, no. And to be fair too, in this movie, Walter Grandi, kind of, he knows that the police force, and specifically the Vice Squad, kind of working hand in hand with the criminals as well, because we do see at one point Mahoney taking in money from the Vice Squad. Giving money out to the Vice Squad, basically as like payment to look the other way for their illegal, illicit stuff. So, they know that the illegal stuff is taking place, and again, it's somewhat about corruption within the police force, as well as like this one lone guy who's like, you know what, I'm not going to stand for this fucking vigilante bullshit anymore, or this criminal bullshit anymore. I'm going vigilante mode on this guy, and that's pretty much the film. You've got the two main characters, and as the film plays out, Giulio kind of gets into like these shenanigans. There's one point where he, as I mentioned before, he's like just trying to steal some lira from a machine, and knifes a police officer in the process. And it's meant to show like where's this guy's moral boundary, right? Like, wait, you just over 600 lira, he's gonna kill this guy. And the film kind of goes into that, and that's where we get that title that you were mentioning metaphorically of Almost Human. Like, where's the moral boundary, the conundrum of what this guy stands for? And later on, he goes into this villa where a few people are having a party, and all of a sudden they string them up onto like this chandelier and have them spun around in like a sort of roulette style game where they
hold on
around naked.
You're forgetting the part too where he's saying they need to be pleasured as he's pulling down the zippers of his comrade. They have the ladies next to him, and he's got the man with the sultry mustache next to him, and he's like, I can't do that. And he's like, what? This is the modern age. We can... Gay shit's fine.
There you go.
Like, or whatever he said, like, it's like, that's meant to be taken as sadism. Like, no, not sadism. Like, he's sinning. Like, like, this is an example of modern day Italy gone awry with this, these assholes sucking dick out there that, that are men. That's wrong, damn it. So we don't see it. It's not like it's, last house on the left, but,
Sure.
The point, the point's there.
But I mean, you can see too, like there is some sort of moral boundary that he has, like in that villa scene where he has no problem murdering some people. They murder the old guy like right away.
Oh, he's got the money out, and he's like, I need money. And it's like,
but
it's your whole quest.
But after that, there's a bang upstairs, and then he just shoots through the door upstairs, and he finds out like a teddy bear rolls down, which is kind of
the funniest
overbearing theme.
No, it's funny as shit though. Like the girl's like taking a piss and she's done. It's like a 4-year-old girl, and he just rips his stem through it, and then we see the teddy bear fall down. Not the girl or blood or anything. And like, no, you killed my daughter. No, and it's just like, you're an animal, and then. When the cop
it blows him away.
Yeah, when they eventually show up on the crime scene, you're like, oh, and we see your body just lying there, like it's so trite and like forced. It's ridiculous, like
I know.
Which this film and then a lot of films like this of the time, I feel like they use rape as a crutch too to kind of get that point across. Like, look how because there's some rape in this film, and it comes across as not like, nuance or adding to the plot. It's more just, adding depth to the story that's being told. It's more like, well, look at this. Like, he's so unhinged. Isn't this shocking?
Yeah.
Never would have seen this a couple of years ago. Look at this,
And I think, that is part of it, is it's the rape part is shocking to be seeing what our protagonist will do. But what I was getting at is like when he murders that kid, he kind of has like this breakdown of like, whoops, I didn't really mean to kill a kid there. And then he kind of goes ballistic because they keep harping on the fact that he killed that kid. So it does show in a way there is a moral boundary that he has. But at the same time, he loses control often enough where the moral boundary doesn't really matter. We see that again later on in the movie too. After they've succeeded in actually getting the money from the kidnapping, he goes and kills the woman, Mary Lou, and his partner, Carmine or Carmine, Carmine, however you would like to say it. He comes in and he's like, "What?
You say it right, Carmine."
He's like, "Why did you do that?" And he's like, I just had to. And then he objects, and basically he blows him away too. He has like this short temper where he can't control himself and then blows away these guys. I mean, to be honest, you could probably argue that he was going to do that all along anyway, to get rid of any loose ends. And
we saw that from the beginning. Like there was literally nothing that triggered him to kill that cop when he fucking kills the cop. So he's just defective in the head to begin with. So
yeah. I mean, and I like that we follow him as a character because I think that it gives us some interesting dynamics here, especially like normally you would probably follow Walter Grandi, who is doing this investigation, trying to figure this out, and you'd go through the more investigative elements of the crimes. But here we follow Giulio, and we get more of the criminal element to this movie.
What makes him a weak protagonist, though, is the fact that this film is made such from the perspective of, like, it's just so trite and stereotypical and just like, oh, look at this poor son of a bitch. He's got no drive, no desire. What a waste of space this person is.
Mm-hmm.
And like he's not like interesting. It's more the film's framing him as he's our protagonist, but he's just basically being framed as random Harlem guy in Death Wish that's about to get blown away by Bronson.
Mm-hmm.
What makes like Death Wish like a compelling story to watch is because Bronson, Paul Kersey, he's a bleeding heart liberal who, was a conscientious objector during Korea, and he's sick and tired of fucking New York getting run down.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the stereotypes that he runs into. Here, having Giulio be the stereotypical unredeemable hood as a protagonist, it's not really engrossing to watch because he is meant to be a lecherous leech and urchin of a character that has no redeeming qualities. Like, if you were to think about like him and his relationship with his girlfriend, Ione, why the fuck would she ever stay around with him? She hasn't seen him in forever, and he shows up. He's like, "Hey, baby, let's get some money. I need your fucking money." And she's like, "I have no money." He's like, "Come on, give me some money. Give me some money." She's like, "I don't have any money." He's like, "What if I fuck you?" Are you like, "Hey, you know, what if I fuck you?" And she's like, "Okay, you know, fine, you know." And it's
So you're saying that you don't really find him to be that interesting of a character to follow, even though he does, you know, he has that criminal element, because he doesn't really have anything going for him in terms of a character itself. He's not really motivated by anything besides money.
No,
and
he's supposed to be a wretch, an urchin, which Thomas Milan does portray pretty, you know, really good. Well, but he's not interesting or anyone that's worth following because they've made him so irredeemably a piece of shit. You can't really relate to his problems, whether they're valid or not, you know, and how he views society, because he's meant to be, in this type of film, an irredeemable piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see from other people in his, you know, his group, you know, we get to see, you know, through Carmine and Vittorio, you know, like they have redeeming parts because they're conscious flickers every now and then. He's
they do have that.
He's a sociopath. So there's no connection you can have with him. So it's not even like, well, he's an anti-hero. You still, to be an anti-hero, have to be somebody you can connect with. And he's not somebody that I feel like you can connect with. He's literally there to be bait to go to slaughter, which, after what he does in this film, is a fine thing. But he's not he's not anyone to be celebrated or thought of.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think that this film has a lot of things going for it. I think it's a pretty fun movie at times. I think that the problem with it is that it has a really unsatisfying middle portion, and it doesn't do a whole lot with character itself. And it really wastes a lot of time on just like setting up the kidnapping scheme. It's almost like, it's almost like it wants to be sort of like a Clockwork Orange at times.
It's not.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. At times it does feel like it's trying to. There's a couple of films I would say, but Clockwork Orange is one of the ones I was watching. It's like, God, you are not it.
Yeah. I think like it definitely wants to get there, but first of all, the writing is way too suspect in this movie. It's got a lot of things going wrong in the script department. But at the same time, I think like it does have fun elements to it. It wastes a lot of time in the middle portion, and I think that if you were to cut out some of that and maybe focus more on Walter Grandi and his characterization a little bit more, might have had a more interesting movie than what we get from Almost Human. But I do think it does come together a bit at the end of the movie, where you see that Giulio really did have a plan in place. Like he goes to Mahoney, and Mahoney, he basically acts as though Mahoney is his alibi, and kind of gets off scot-free because for whatever reason, it's not really clear in the movie, Mahoney's like, "Sure, I'll vouch for you." Like it's
because he threatens to throw Mahoney for the bank job under the bus. So
but do we really believe that would actually work? It doesn't really, like, to me, it just felt like there needed to be a plot element here, so they kind of just forced him to do something that he probably would never have gone along with. I didn't really believe that.
I agree with you, but that's the justification.
Yeah.
Well, I could tell him that you were the one that planned that bank job. And it's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, you shot the cop. You know, that's what I would tell him.
Yeah.
Look, we didn't rob no fucking bank. We were going to, and then you shot the cop because you're weak in the knees. And
we were going to commit a crime,
so
we didn't end up getting to it.
So But I mean, like it's just such a for like a vigilante film. It's so there's like no like redeeming parts. Like I mean, well, I was gonna say like in like the characterization at least, because again, I don't agree with the politics in a lot of these vigilante films from the 70s. Because it's bad politics and comes from a place of not understanding, have an understanding of like socioeconomic things. But I enjoy them greatly because I always enjoy like this idea of these cities being these, run down hellholes that are, being overrun by this crime that when you see the crime and you think about it, it's like, yeah, that came from a white person's mind. Because it's like, when you hear about like our local area and like, don't walk at night, it's like, why? What's going to happen? Like Ron DeSantis right now is on like a crime tour. He's doing all the crime-ridden cities and he's going to Chicago. And it's like, that's right. Chicago's been a crime-ridden hellhole for 50 years, allegedly. Still going on, making deep dish pizza. So like, it's like kind of like the same thing. Like, so, but I mean, like those films, in spite of their bad politics, the setting and idea kind of makes for a good story because of like how you can kind of like rationalize it in your mind, even no matter what your politics are, like with your id in like how crazy it all is. And I think this film does it in some points. But the fact that we don't have a protagonist really to grasp onto, to kind of relate that kind of fish out of water, dealing with this I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore situation, definitely hinders it. And I think the fact, as you said, too, the middle part, when we hit an hour in, I thought the film was getting ready to wrap up, and I saw there was 40 minutes left. I'm like, what do we have left to fucking do? Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a film that probably should be 80 minutes long because the last third of it before we get to the last like 8 is like reveling too much in its own bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I got that too. I mean, I think it has some explosive moments. We haven't talked about Ennio Morricone score, which gets used pretty much this. It's almost like, it's kind of funny because this Blu-ray comes with the CD and it has like 15 tracks on it.
Yeah, they play one.
I feel like they only play one.
Probably two.
Maybe two.
They play two throughout the film. One's your sad noir sax of it just plays that on a loop every time something happens. And the other one's when Henry Silva's like walking and it's like, he's a Sandman walking, trying to figure out what's going on. Things are happening. He's a Sandman.
I mean, I like the score, the Ennio Morricone. I really like the sax score that like bookends the movie and is part of like the main theme of Giulio, where he's gonna do criminal stuff. I think that's a really solid hitting song, but at the same time, I do feel like they bought 60 minutes worth of music from Ennio Morricone and ended up using 4. It's kind of a waste of a.
He said what? And it's like, where's the rest of my score?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like reprise after reprise after yeah. So I mean, I think that they did a pretty good job of that, but it's not the best used of Ennio Morricone's score for that. For definitely, he does a good job with it, but it probably didn't get enough out of its makeup. What did you think about like the ending of the movie where we get the showdown between Henry Silva's Walter Grandi and Giulio, who Giulio thinks now at this point he's gotten off scot-free. He's all set. He's going to start another score. He's basically doing the same thing over again. What did you think about that as we hear a cripple show up?
I mean, I'm fine with it because like it's kind of like it's like the point of the film and these vigilante films. That's why they're vigilante, is that you have these people either who are in power to try to stop crime or who have been closely associated and affected by it, taking the law into their own hands because they haven't been satisfied with the results that society has given them. Here, I do actually like that we get to see, after everything that happens, Sylvia, meet the judge and meet, his lawyer and have this discussion on like, well, there's nothing we can fucking do. There's no evidence that points to it. As, he's so goddamn committed and to the idea that, Giulio is a criminal and has committed these crimes, which does have the evidence to back up, but the legal system doesn't have the ability to support him on these things. That I do love that, because again, that's also where you get a lot of the idea of all these, with these vigilante films and of the 70s, is this fact that the systems let the person down, the silent majority, the law-abiding citizen who's been left behind. Anyone can walk up and steal somebody's, purse these days. We're not safe to travel. God damn it, won't somebody do something about it? And he's actually a cop. He's seen the system fail. And he takes the matters into his own hands. That's like the perfect summation, though, of what the genre's about. Mm-hmm. So I like that a lot. I mean, I don't agree with the message, but I mean, I do like it for being thematically on point, And I do like the fact that they actually showed that part of we didn't get to see in Death Wish, the trappings of, Paul Kersey getting sent to court and everyone being like, I didn't see him kill those black people in the train station, So, that is nice, to kind of see that. And I did like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does a pretty good job with the, the police crime element, and the ending itself is, I think, pretty interesting in the way that it plays out, as you have Grandy coming up to Giulio, basically, a surprise, shocked for him. He thinks he's getting away with it. Thinks like, no one's going to be able to touch me. Going to do it all over again. And then you have Grandy coming here, and he basically says, you know what? Fuck the commission, fuck the police force. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to take him out myself. And then whatever the consequences of that may be are fine with me. So, I mean, I think it ends on an explosive note.
But the way it does end, though, the way everyone's kind of standing and watching, it's going to be one of those, did you see him kill him? No, I didn't see him do anything. Yeah, or he also waits till Giulio pulls out his gun. Yeah, so it's and he says
justified shooting.
He says call the judge. I killed the murderer who who's just been exonerated. So if again at the end of the day, it's see, if you do it this way, you get justice. Which is not the moral you should be picking up from it.
I know. So I guess this movie is, I think it falls a little bit outside of the norm of a Poliziotteschi. They don't always play out like this. But as you said, there are some serious John Saxon vibes that we get from Henry Silva. It does in some ways resemble some of the Americanized crime dramas that we have.
Man's John Saxon. John Saxon would never allow this shit on his watch.
What do you think about your first excursion into Poliziotteschi? What would you say? Is this something that you would recommend or not recommend? How do you feel?
Yeah, so first Poliziotteschi, I will say, is enjoyable. It's not very far off from, the 70s vigilante genre as a whole. Mainly what I know from American films, which is a genre, as I've said before, as we've done a bunch of them on here that I do enjoy, in spite of some of the flaws and the shitty politics that come with it. This one's like kind of right on the money. It's in the feels. It's right in the wheelhouse of like what I would expect from this type of movie. The only thing that makes it kind of different from our American brethren is the fact that it's got really shitty dubbing. Other than that, you know, it's right in the wheelhouse, you know. It's not like it's going to be a taxi driver or anything, but it, you know, it's still a fun film to watch.
Yeah, so I guess along with that, so out of a 0 to 10 teddy bears tragically falling down the stairs, what would you give Almost Human?
The executioner.
The executioner.
Come on, hates cops, can't shoot.
Whatever one you want.
I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It's a fun enough film. It's definitely got all the earmarkings of a vigilante film with some more Italian nuance, and by that I mean not 1 but 2 rape scenes. Going more whole hog with the violence and actually showing the aftermath. Nothing really over the top. Like, a bunch of people get shot in this film, but nothing's really over the top.
The only thing over the top is how many times they get shot, and yet you don't see it. You only see like 2 bullet holes.
Yeah, and you see the squib. So that's why that's why I'd say it's over the top. Like, the one of the guys gets shot in the cheek, and they show the squib in the cheek. You know. Yep. I mean, it's not like, oh, that's not like what would happen. Shot with a stent in the head, but you know, whatever. I think it's a fine enough film. It's not gonna wow you. It has no political meaning that's really worth value. It's very kind of it is very fashy, you know, with the main theme being let the cops do their job and do what they need to do to get the job done. Whether that's intended or not, I don't know. I haven't read enough on the making of the film. Kind of gather either way. I just an overall vibe, though. But I mean, again, that's kind of the overall vibe in all of these types of films. It's a slow burn. After, like, the first 20 minutes are pretty enjoyable. It's pretty fast-paced, pretty fun. And then it kind of dithers about for quite a while with the whole kidnapping bullshit. As much as I think Tomas Milan is a fun person in this, as Giulio in it, he can be really grating at times, and your mileage is definitely going to vary on how much enjoyment you get out of these films and the types of people that are in these films, because they're all archetypes. It's the same thing, like I said, with the rape stuff. It's nothing that's really there for like nuance. It's just there because like shock and awe. So take that with what you will when you watch it. It's nothing overly obscene, and that sounds bad, but it's nothing overly the top or graphic with its violence or sex, to be honest with you. So, especially by today's standards, it's pretty tame.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Like, for the genre, it does make me want to watch more Poliziotteschi and see kind of how, like, what was going on in Italy at the time, to have more, like, better understanding of why, you know, this type of genre was hitting them at the same time, too. Just because of, like, it's going to make lira. The politics are probably around the same, too. You know, so in America, it was like, oh, those goddamn black people. But here, I'm kind of curious to what was going on in Italy, and I don't have enough knowledge, to say what 60s, 70s Italy was like to have a kind of background on it. Well, it does make me want to check out more and see how they kind of diverge as a film genre. So
yeah,
I'd say 7 out of 10.
I would probably give this a... Yeah, I probably agree with you on that. 7 out of 10. I think that it does a fair job at doing the Poliziotteschi crime drama. At the same time, I do think that it has too much of a lull in its middle portion. I think it's fun at times. Like, it has a lot of fun moments. You can because the character is such a sociopath, you can kind of enjoy sitting back and seeing it from a criminal's perspective, knowing that they're probably going to get their comeuppance at the end. And so I think that, like, even though the film doesn't do a really good job characterizing or anything like that, you still get enough of that information to have an enjoyable experience in the movies. And then you have Henry Silva there as a foil to Giulio to give you more of like the judgment and justice that he brings to this movie. With that said, like I think like a lot of the violence is really over the top, so it's not going to really be taken too seriously. The score is overutilized at times. Like they took one track from Ennio Morricone and they turned it into a full-length movie. But he does a good job with that music. It's just that, it's just overused in the way that they've put it in pretty much every scene, the same track. The script is a little bit awkward at times, maybe translation, maybe not. But either way, it has a little bit of awkwardness. It has a lot of things that leave you scratching your head, like, that seems like a plot hole. Like when Giulio goes to pick up the bags of cash and like no one's watching the bags, like they just don't, like the police force did not put anybody there to like watch it. They're just like, well, I guess we'll just leave it here for them to go pick up and we'll find them later.
Now, other thing too that's really weird, like Silva talks about, like, if you give him the money, she's gonna die. We can beat this. And the fact that they gave her the money, they promised to protect, and she still died. Like, where was his ass chewing about that at the end? Like, you broke rank. We told you to not, do anything. You went, you did something, got the girl killed.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that too. Like, they don't come back to that. The fact they're like, whoops, it's just like, they don't really come back to like,
listen,
the dad's
trying to protect your daughter. And,
yeah.
Sorry.
I know. Yeah, no, I did find that to be interesting too. Yeah, I mean, all of these things kind of add up to being just like,
whoopsie doodles.
Yeah, it's it's not an amazing movie, but it does have its moments, and I think that it does a fairly good job, which is why I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. All right, so what's next on our agenda?
You know what? I could go for more vigilantism.
Yeah?
Like, what? Let's run Death Wish.
Yeah, do it again. No, I'm trying to think what we should be doing, like, thematically. I don't really think that there's anything coming up too much right now. I know what day is St. Patty's Day this year?
We're done with Leprechaun, so
17th. So we still have a week or so.
Isn't that when's Scream 6 out?
Scream 6 is out. I think you're right. I think it's out on the 17th as well.
So that's gonna be our new St. Patrick's Day.
No, I'm sorry. It's out on the 10th. So we would see it on the 10th and then have it out for our next week's episode. So that probably would take the place of St. Patrick's Day. because we see it on the 10th, and then we would have it out on the 17th.
Would you like to maybe sneak in a blaxploitation film before we wrap this up?
Yeah, that'd be fun. Well, which one are you thinking?
It's a good question. What are you thinking?
I don't really have too much of a preference here at this point. Did we do coffee? We did do coffee. Did we do have we done Foxy Brown? We haven't done Foxy Brown.
We haven't.
So we could do Foxy Brown.
What about Shaft?
Shaft could be fun too. Yeah. I would be down in Shaft if you want to do that one.
Or we should Black Dynamite.
Nah, let's do Shaft. Yeah. Let's do Shaft for next time. And we can get in all of our dick jokes. Stroking the shaft.
Every time I hear the Shaft theme, I think of the early 2000s Burger King Sourdough King, which was the burger that was on sourdough bread. And it had Shaq in the commercial set to the Shaft theme. It's like, who is the man that can jam over any man? Shaq! Talking about Shaq back. This is like one of the few things like my dad ever is like, let's go to Burger King, get this meal. And there's a sourdough bread meal.
Oh.
It was okay for whatever. Nothing great. But like everything from Burger King. Nothing ever gonna blow you away.
Yeah, let's do Chef for next time. Plan on
So we're gonna do the Samuel Jackson 2004.
yeah, that one.
Speaking of Hollywood, when are we gonna remake Sweet Sweetback's badass song?
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna remake that one.
Wow, Shaft's been put into the National Film Registry.
I guess so. Yeah, no.
God, in 2000. What a progressive society we live
in. Yeah. All right, so plan on Shaft for our next episode. That'll be good times. And that will be we'll do that in 2 weeks, right? So it'll be in 2 weeks.
We're just gonna skip the Shaft in Africa.
Yeah, yeah. One of the sequels.
Really, the Shaft remake came out in 2000. I feel like they came out later.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was Bush era. Wow, I can't believe that was 2000. Jesus Christ.
All right, well, if you want to hear us cover Shaft, then you'll want to cover Shaft. It's going to be fun. You'll have to subscribe to us. So you can subscribe on pretty much any podcasting app you can think of. We're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, home base at anchor.fm. Pretty much anything you can think of, we're on it. So subscribe, leave us a nice review. That always helps us out. We are also on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for us on there, Blood and Black Rum Podcast. Like us, follow us, whatever you do on the social medias. We are on email as well. You can write to us at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what movies you want us to do, and we will take that into consideration. And then you can also donate to us on our Patreon page or on our anchor.fm page, whatever you want to do. Anything you can donate our way will go right back into beer, so thanks in advance. So, next time, you'll hear us cover Shaft. And until then,
take care.